So thanks everyone for joining on our 8th and last of Chiltern's short back to basics sessions, some of which have been presented in collaboration with other Midlands and Eastern region branches. It's been very well received and driven by our very own Alan Plum. And today we're going to be talking about the basics of PPE, the last line of defence. It's going to be a relatively short presentation, probably, by our very own Vice Chair, Luke James, who is Senior Health and Safety Manager at Reach Printing Services in Watford. So still one of the largest printers of newspapers and other similar items in the UK. So Luke will describe how they provide the necessary and consistent information and training across the company's 4 major printing and distribution plants. And he's also got a video for us as well. So before, here's the agenda. So we'll go through the presentation, Luke will, then we'll have some questions and answers if anyone's got any queries, and then there'll be a few branch updates. And of course, we're looking at early October for our next branch meeting. We're having a bit of a break after this one in September, after the rigours of back to basics. Chiltern branch needs a bit of a rest. And of course, our comms are available on LinkedIn and also Twitter. So please follow those feeds and join if you haven't already to see when our next branch meeting is. So now I'll hand over to Luke so he can get down to business. Over to you, Luke.
And we are at the last session, which is our PPE session. So as Tim said, Luke James, I'm Senior Health and Safety Manager at Reach Printing Services. So I look after the Watford site and also the other sites around the country. And I also look after the post-press department. So we're a newspaper printing service, and my department that I look after is those annoying inserts that you get in the paper. So a little bit of an introduction as to into what we do. So we're the largest print manufacturers in the UK, doing titles such as the Mirror, the Express, the Star, but we also do a lot of other papers for other people. So we do the Guardian, Racing Post, as well as a whole host of regional newspapers across the country. And here's a little brief video of what happens at our print sites. So this is the reel of the paper, the plate room, the presses. As you can hear, lots of noise, so that will come into it a bit later. There's the copies coming out. They will go upstairs to the post-press department where they'll be trimmed and inserted and then go out. So it's a very machinery-led basis, but we still do have, on the Watford site, over 200 people on site working as operators, engineers, so a huge sort of varied workforce, and obviously protection for those staff is our utmost concern. And obviously the last section of that is where we look at our PPE. So this was a video that we done for Alka here, which was a newspaper that we done a million copies of those in a week. Whilst also printing all of our standard titles as well. So, do we need to supply staff with PPE? So, of course we do. Yes, Regulation 4 states that we have to do it. You know, if we're putting people at risk at work, then we need to adequately control those risks, or we need to look at what PPE we can put in place to reduce those risks to those staff. As we said, this is our last one of the back to basics sessions, and the reason why it's last is because it's last on the hierarchy of controls. We should always look at elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls. So that's what we've looked at during the back to basics session. We've looked at all of those things we can do before we actually get to PPE. So we've left this till last. We left the best till last. And when we look at it, we look at the risk assessment process. And we look at what PPE we have. So what is PPE? It's any equipment that will protect the user against health and safety risks at work. So this could be helmets, hard hats, gloves, eye protection, high visibility clothing, safety footwear, harnesses. And it also includes RP as well, which has been massive in the last 18 months with COVID, where we've all come to know our FFP1s and FFP2s and 3s as they've become more and more widely known in the media. When we're looking at PPE, we first want to look at our risk assessment and our COSHH assessment. So we want to know what our risks are. What are our risks? What have we already got in place to reduce those risks? And then what are our residual risks that we need to protect using PPE? So that might be noise, or it might be chemical. So we have to look at who's exposed to them and what they're exposed to, how long they're exposed for, and how much they're exposed to. So one of the things that is often a misconception, a nice picture of me in bubble wrap there maybe, is that as we start out, we want to protect staff so much, and we look at the PPE that is on offer, and there's a huge amount of PPE that's on offer through our suppliers, and we always want to give our staff the best to protect them the most. But actually, it can be a misconception that we have to give them the best. Actually, overprotection, research suggests that it's actually been more risky than underprotection. So if we look at hearing protection, if we protect overprotect noise reduction measures, so we can actually add new risks in there where people won't be able to hear vehicles, or won't be able to hear people shouting for help, or clear instructions. So just as much as we want to protect staff, we have to look at that we don't overprotect staff. The selection of PPE. So when choosing PPE, we're looking at our CE marks in terms of our regulations, and we're also looking at the right fit for people. So PPE, we want to be making sure that it's for the staff member who is going to be using it. We want to make sure that we're not giving them baggy gloves, or we're not giving them ill-fitting overalls that are actually going to add to risk factors or make their job more difficult. PPE is there to protect them, make them safer, and also help them in their daily role. It's not there and shouldn't be there as an onerous addition. So in part of our other business is Reach PLC. So we have reporters who are going out to different countries with the likes of Afghanistan, and where we're choosing body armor, obviously in the heat, we don't want them to be too warm or too cumbersome, because if they're going out on a walkabout, they obviously don't want to get too tired, have issues with heat exhaustion. So we want to choose it for the right PPE for the right person, and that means that they're more likely to use it. Also, it's the interaction between possibly two items of PPE, whether that's a mask and safety goggles, or shoes and overalls. We want to make sure that they work together. If we're using respirators, we don't want to cause air leaks that will negate those protective measures that you're putting in place. And also we need to train people to use their gloves, to how to take them off, because we don't want to go to the measures of putting those protection measures in place where we're protecting the hands, and then at the end of the process to then get contaminated and then have issues with their skin. So we need to not only give people the PPE, but also give them the skills of how to use it and how to take it off, and then also how to discard of it. We also want to look at exemptions. So just because a task takes only a couple of seconds, it's no excuse for not wearing the PPE. there's only so many times you get lucky of not wearing the PPE. It's always the times when you're not wearing it that you'll get hurt. That PPE is there or in a risk assessment for a reason, and it's there to protect the person for the whole job and no matter the length. Now, PPE is a massive area, so this is just a back to basics session. So we're not going to go into a deep dive of everything about PPE. But there is external parties who can come in and assess and advise. You can speak to your suppliers. So when I'm using noise assessments, I'll have an external party to come in and do our noise assessment. I use that because it brings in their technical skills, their technical knowledge, their equipment as well, because certain areas of PPE assessing can be very, very expensive to buy the equipment in. So using an external party can make sure that you get the best advice and also with the best equipment. So whether that's dose monitors or any other types of devices. If you do need help, there's lots of advice from specialist advisors, and also there's so much help there from your local IOSH branch. So as we've seen today with Alan, he's massively talented in lots of areas. You've got lots of different people in each branch who've got different skills in different areas, and they've got lots of experience. So if you do have a question, and it doesn't matter how simple or stupid you might think that question is, always ask for help. That's what the branch is there for, and that's what we all, go into the IOSH committees for, is to help people, and we're always there for assistance. One of the things that sometimes gets forgotten with PPE is actually when you give it out, you've got to think about the maintenance of that PPE. So when we pass out the goggles, the gloves, the respiratory protection, we need to think about how it's going to be kept and how it's going to be stored, and making sure it's kept in a clean, dry cupboard. A replacement parts, so for respiratory devices, making sure that we've got the filters in, making sure that we've got a program in place and that people know when to change filters, how regularly to change filters, making sure replacement PPE is available. In the printing industry, we do get very, very dirty with ink, and we can go through a lot of gloves. So we've got to make sure we've got those levels of gloves in stock. So it's understanding how many you're going to use and making sure we've got the stock. So we did have issues last year where we started to struggle with PPE supplies. Everyone in the country was looking for PPE, and we used very, very similar grade to the NHS. So all of our PPE was being diverted to the NHS. So we had to come up with new supply chains, new ideas of how we could get the items in to make sure we could still keep printing, because we were a key worker, because we were giving the public the information about coronavirus. So we needed to keep our staff safe, be able to keep everyone else safe, and get them the information they needed, whether it's from our regional titles or from our online areas. We need to make sure also that our employees understand the proper use of the PPE and know how to report its loss or destruction or any fault, so that they can get the PPE they need when they need it. What are the types of PPE? So we have many types of PPE, and really, as I said, this is the back to basics session. We could be here for hours just talking about gloves and goggles, but I don't think I'll be able to keep everyone here for 10 to 20 hours to talk about gloves. It's not going to be fun for anyone. So the protection of eyes, we're looking at chemical metal splashes, dust projectiles. So this is Connor, one of our engineers. We also have to look at the individual and look at what changes that we might have to make to suit that individual. So Connor is a glasses wearer. So some of the spectacles that we have will not work well with his glasses. So we have to look at what else we can do. That's bringing in goggles or visors or full face visors. So it's looking at the person and also looking at the task. So we do have a lot of cleaning activities where there's a lot of splashing. So we need to look at how can we protect not only the eyes, but also the whole face. So that brings us nicely onto head and neck protection. So that'll be from falling objects, head bumping. So in the printing industry, we have a lot of smaller areas to get into in our printing presses. So we do have to look at bump hats, but we also need to look at how that's going to work. So we don't want to give people PPE that's going to be too big to get into these units, where it's going to make it difficult for them to do the task. And it needs to be properly fitted, and it needs to be able to work with the other items that we're going to put in place with that. Ears, as you heard from the initial video, it's very, very noisy in certain areas of our printing industry. So in the press room, we're normally around the 80 to 90 dB mark. So we want to be able to bring that down, but we don't want to bring it down too much so that we overprotect and then people can't hear what's going on around them. What you also need to make sure that you do is that where you have items supplied, is that you have your warning, your signage to say what they're being subjected to in that area, what they might come into contact with, and also how to use it. So our small earpieces that we use that are available around site, there's a certain way in which you have to compress them to get them into the ear to make them work right. So you need to give them the information to properly use it. This is what's available out on the site. So when you're visiting certain areas, these are available, but also what we have in the stores for all of our staff. So when we have people visiting, we want to make sure that not only are our staff protected from high levels of noise, but also visitors, contractors. So it's having that information out around the site. Hands and arm protection. So in our press room, we have printing plates, which are metal printing plates, aluminium printing plates, very, very sharp. So the likes of the blue glove here be fantastic for certain chemical products, certain cleaning, but not great when we look at our handling of metal. So when they are carrying plates, they'll be carrying 10 to 15 plates, and they'll be going from one area of the building to another. We need to look at how we can protect our hands during that process. And one of those ways is to use our cut-proof gloves. Now, these cut-proof gloves have been chosen for the job that is being undertaken. So when you look at gloves and you look at cut-proof gloves, there are so many different types of cut-proof glove that offer the same protection. So what we've done here with this was we've got the staff involved, and we brought in a number of different gloves, and we got people to try them out. So that gave them the same level of protection, but we wanted to see what worked best for the staff. When you're plating up a press, you need to maintain your dexterity, and standard gloves or heavier cut-proof gloves just doesn't work. You don't get that feel to be able to plate up a press. So we need to look at lightweight gloves which offer the same protection. Feet and leg protection. So this is George coming in on his FLT. We have a supplier called Arco who we get all of our boots from. So sometimes when you're looking at protective clothing, you need to speak to your suppliers, and you need to see what is going to work in certain environments in your building. So we have various different areas where people are working inside and outside. Some where people are working with lots of chemicals, so we need to make sure that they're penetrative resistant, and we need to make sure that they're tested to the right level. So if you're buying from someone like an Amazon or from somewhere else, you might not get the same level of boot or the same level of protection. So we use Arco because they do actually stress test all of their shoes. They do actually put them through the rigors to make sure that they are fully protective, and they do what they say they're going to do. You know, we don't want PPE to fail because we haven't brought the right things, or we haven't gone to the right people for our protective clothing. So sometimes it's not the cheapest, sometimes not the most expensive, but it's understanding that you're buying the right items and the right protective items. Respiratory and lung protection. So this is our masks, our RPE, very much in the news over the last 18 months is mask wearing, face coverings. On site, we use a lot of different chemicals. So we need to look at what mask do we need for those chemicals. And we also go out to bring in third parties to look at the dose readings that we give out to our staff when using these products. So we want to make sure we're not going over those limits of what we use. We also want to look at, can we replace those chemicals that we use before we even get to having to use the masks. As we looked at the start of this, we want to do all we can do to not have to use PPE. We want to make sure that we can protect our staff before we get to this last level of defence, which is the PPE. This is an area you could go on about for hours because of the amount of different masks, the amount of different levels. But really, it's one that you look into for your area of work, for the type of atmospheres, dust, gases, vapours that people are coming into contact with. Then we've got our whole body protection. So this is George getting dressed into his lovely overalls. Protecting people for the whole of their body, it depends on the task that they're doing. So you're not going to need a white suit if you're plating up because it's only a very small area. But if you're cleaning a press, there's a chance that can get onto your clothes and then affect your skin from there. So what we want to do is we want to cover the whole body. When it comes to overalls, as with every other item of PPE, there's a huge range of different levels. So we need to look at our chemical resistance. We use a very, very high level of chemical resistance because we want to protect our staff as much as possible because they're doing it on a longer period. Because there's specialist cleaners who are cleaning the presses on a daily basis. So we want to protect them, their skin, their clothing from the rigors of the daily cleaning processes. And don't forget our protection, safety harnesses, life jackets, depending on where you are and what you're doing and what industry you're in. At Reach Printing Services, we have a massive commitment to PPE. Our commitment to safety is very, very wide, and we want to do as much as possible to keep our staff safe, but also to keep our staff involved. One of the things is having our own training. So all of our sites have people who are face fit testers, COSHH assessors, risk assessors. Also, we make sure we've got the right people in the right roles with the right skills to be able to give out the right advice. And we want to get our staff involved in the selection of the PPE. If we get people involved in the selection of PPE, they're more likely to use it. If we just force it on them, then you're likely to get pushed back. If we get them involved, get that buy-in, then it makes everything a lot easier. And it makes people want to wear it because they know that it's the right thing for the task, and they also know that it's the right thing that they've chosen for the task as well, to protect them and to protect their staff members around them. We also have management and team leaders who present monthly toolbox talks, and this is one of them that we do, which is our toolbox talk number 3, which is on PPE, which looks at types of PPE, typical hazards using PPE. These will be rolled out by the team leaders and managers, with an opportunity for the staff to ask questions and also for feedback, if we feel like we need to change the toolbox talks, because things will change. So we need to look at accidents and incidents. We will need to change how we look at PPE. If we have an accident or an incident, we need to look at how we can protect staff from that in the future, whether that by PPE or whether it by any of the other means of the hierarchy of controls. And one of the most important things we do around the site is to place signage so that people understand, as you saw on the video, they understand when they're going into areas where they're going to be higher noise levels, where we're going to have to use certain hard hats or high vis, when you're going to be coming into contact with vehicles where you're going to need high vises. And that is the Back to Basics session on PPE. I'd like to thank you all for coming along. It's the first time I've done a presentation like this, so it was great to have you all here. And back to Tim if there's any questions. Tim.
Yes, thank you very much, Luke. Great job. No one would know that it's the first time you've ever done it. It was really good. So yeah, a couple of questions. So one was, well, kind of a comment, but I suppose there's a question as well, which ties in with your ending piece there. Basically, the comment was, it is a particular bugbear of mine that to enter some construction sites, there is a general requirement to wear gloves. But when I press the issue and ask, well, what hazard do I need gloves to protect me from? I just get a blank face response of, you've got to wear gloves, mate, or you can't come in, which could apply to hard hats, safety glasses, high vis, anything really. So what are your thoughts on generic PPE and I suppose visitors and third-party contractors coming onto site? How do you explain to them why they have to wear what they have to wear? Because it's true, if you're just a visitor going to an office, why do you need a hard hat and high vis if you're not going through a traffic area? Surely there should be zoned areas where the PPE is relevant to the risk that's been associated with, rather than just being asked generically to put a high vis on to protect you from what? So how do you deal with that at Reach?
Yeah, so at Reach, we have areas where we use certain PPE. So we're not looking at a blanket approach. I found if you do a blanket approach, you get people who are less likely to buy into it and wear what they should be wearing, because they don't see the point in it. So you want to make sure that people know the reasons behind it. So that's why when we have visitors on site, we have their inductions. So when we ask them to wear high vises, or when we ask them to wear steel toe caps, we're asking them to wear it for a reason, and there's a reason behind that. So it's because of the areas that they're in. So we make sure that people are properly briefed and understand why they're doing it.
Okie dokie. And then from our own Alan, there's a question. Alan, would you like to ask the question?
Okay, thanks, Tim. I've sort of posted a couple on there, so if I can grab the moment and run them in together. Yeah, well done, Luke. Yeah, speaking from the lip, that was great. Thank you. I think one of, shall we say, the industries I'm used to working in aren't quite as sanitized as yours appears to be. I'm thinking farms, continually dusty, contaminated environments. Many farms you go into, the RPE's hanging on a nail in the grain store. So really, I was just looking to share some practical advice in that type of environment. My cheap solution is use an old empty ice cream container or something else, kitchen containers, really, to keep kit clear. But I just wondered how you tackle that, as part of your routine replacement and maintenance regime, really.
Yeah, so it's a good point, Alan, really. When I first started with Reach, we did have areas where we were using certain equipment, and the safety goggles were just hung up on the side, quite dusty. Might have had swarf in them, and then you're thinking, okay, well, what we're protecting ourselves from these kind of risks, and actually we're not. We're maybe putting in more risks. So what we've got up on in certain areas where we've got PPE, we have boxes on the wall for goggles, and we also have PPE lockers. What we found was that people didn't have enough room in their lockers with all of their clothing for home, tools. So we gave them their own dedicated PPE locker. So whether that be their bump caps or whether it be their outside wear. So we do give people jackets, because we do have people working outside in the vanway, which is where we palletize stuff. So we do give them outside jackets, which are big and bulky. So we want to give them somewhere to store it clean and tidy, so it's there and ready for the next use. But we do understand that things do get dirty, so we have to replace them.
A dedicated PPE locker I can see is a great idea, because it reinforces the important significance of that, and easier from a maintenance point of view as well. I would say, I just noticed as a message came to me personally from the appropriately named Terry Box, who I haven't met before, but hello Terry, great to have you with us. He suggests 3M do a bum bag for oral nasal masks, can be placed alongside cleaning products to maintain the mask, so or just using a zip lunch bag. So yeah, some great alternative ideas, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, sometimes thinking outside the box really, Alan, isn't it?
Or inside the box.
Inside the box.
Shall I ask my other question, Tim? I don't want to hog this. But,
yeah, go for it.
See what else is coming in. Yeah, I've been quite taken with the sort of new variants of high vis with sort of inbuilt visible or audible warning systems, flashing lights or whatever, when lift trucks or other vehicles are approaching. Have you tried that in your environment yet?
We haven't, no. We try to segregate people from vehicles as much as possible. So we have a vanway which doesn't have people in. We want to keep people behind the barriers. We want to keep that clear segregation. But we have used audible and visual warnings when it comes to noise. So there are some noise signs. So when the noise goes above a certain decibel that you choose, the light illuminates to tell you that that you need to put on hearing protection.
I play in a band, and the version of that we've had, the power goes off, which isn't good in a factory. But yeah, when
no, they wouldn't
too loud. Thank you.
There's been some, thanks Alan and Luke, there's been some more chat about sort of blanket rules and how they're used, and I appreciate what you're saying, Luke, that if you just bring out blanket rules, then you get cynicism towards those rules and maybe to health and safety in general. So it's not a good culture. But the other side to that is there's ever emerging hazards. So there might be brick cutting going on at a construction site, so you have to wear some kind of RPE. But at that particular moment when you're on site, there is no brick cutting going on. So how, I suppose, do you balance again, generic blanket rules and enforcing that whilst keeping cynicism down and awareness high?
It's all about communication. So if you're telling people the reasons behind why they've got to wear them, so if there are blanket rules, so we're currently decommissioning 2 print sites. So there's going to be a lot of demolition work going on. So there will be a certain level of PPE that will be standard as soon as you set foot inside there. But that's part of the induction process of going in there. As to why certain PPE is being used, it might be that you go in there and there is no deconstruction of brickwork or hard standing that's going on. But if there's the risk there, you've got to protect people.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. It's about communication, and it's also about linking inductions as well. So someone coming on site, whether it's an existing employee or even a contractor or a visitor, they need to be aware of the hazards, and from that then why the PPE is being used. So rather than just the PPE is at the front, which is the last line of defence, really, that discussion should take place after you've talked about the whys and wherefores, what's happening on site, what you need to be aware of, what hazards could impact on you, and by the way, you need to wear this. So really, it should be the end of the conversation, not the start of the conversation, to be fair. And I think we're probably all very busy, and we end up sort of just cutting to the chase. And this is why a lot of places have generic signs up, because people are trying to do their job, but they've just left the end piece there, maybe. I don't know. I had one question. What tools do you use to determine the level of PPE that you use? For example, with RPE, if I remember rightly, it was the EH40 manual. Depending on the hazard, that is identified in the COSHH assessment and the concentration of said hazard chemical, then you look at the EH40 guide, which then tells you what specifically what respirator you need, what now BS standard rather than CE standard type of filtration is required. Then you go to 3M or other manufacturers, and that was how I sequenced the RPE. Are there any other tools that you can mention that help you provide specific PPE for a specific task?
So there are some specific tasks that we do on site where there is exposure to certain chemical vapors. So when we, come across items like that, we'll bring in a specialist and we'll get them to do dose monitoring of them, of the staff that are involved. So we understand where the exposure levels are, how long they're exposed to, and what level of protection we need to put in place. So it might come back that we need to actually get rid of that product, or it might be that we need to up the PPE, or the PPE that we're using is the correct one. Our first port of call is always the safety data sheet to look at what the chemical is, what is the makeup of that chemical, and then what we need to do to protect the staff at that level. So we do have certain chemicals we use an FFP3 mask for, and some is just a standard FFP1, a lightweight mask. Yeah, but it's all to do with the task. And I'm never afraid to bring in a specialist, because as a health and safety professional, you can't be an expert in everything. So sometimes you need to bring in those experts to get the right advice that you need.
So I'll basically hand over to Jimmy, because I think he's got other places to go and things to do, being the important fella he is. So Jimmy, all yours.
Thank you very much, and lovely to be here, and such a great attendance, and also to see the chair there as well, and Brenton. We also have our President-elect, Vice Chair of Council. I can see past chairs, members. So to you all, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I have been in a few meetings today. I've got the old suit on because I was at the APS one today. I was talking about veterans, so I thought it was good. And then I was asked to come here today, and I thought I'll stick the gong on as well because I've got some places to go later. But ideally, I'm here today because I have a presentation to make today, Tim. And one of the things is that this member, this volunteer, as I like to try and say all the time, has been a member of the Chiltern branch for around 10 years and nominated by your chair and Luke, but I know it will be supported by many of the Chiltern members. The nomination itself, and I must say the nomination was extraordinarily good. Myself and the President-elect looked at as part of our duties, we looked at the nomination together. And it spoke about how they played a key role in coordinating activities over the last challenging year. And as we all know, Chiltern has taken a lead in many things, many new initiatives, and again, we're the first to host virtual branch meetings over this difficult time. And it was a new learning, but their instrumental support, Chiltern was successful in holding events in a new way. They've clearly demonstrated the qualities and values of an IOSH volunteer, going beyond and making a difference to the future of the profession, supporting other members and promoting IOSH's vision of a safer and healthier world of work. And again, a great ambassador for our profession. But this is probably going to give some clues. The nomination also spoke about another initiative that demonstrated the above and beyond. They've been influential in creating and coordinating, in collaboration with other branches, the Chiltern Branch Summer School Series, Back to Basics. This is a set of weekly presentations on key workplace risk areas, led by key leaders and experts in the industry. They conceptualised the programme as a measure to bring a focus on the health and safety basics. So far, these sessions have an extraordinary 539 attendees. The success of the Summer School Series has been due to their meticulous approach and commitment to IOSH. They spent many hours researching past IOSH events to ensure alignment and attendees got the best out of the sessions. These back to basic sessions have really demonstrated the IOSH values of enhance, collaboration and influence, and would not have happened if it was not for this volunteers' drive, determination and passion. This series comes to an end this week, and what a timely way to recognise this achievement. And it's been my pleasure to award this person, this volunteer, this extraordinary individual with a President's Commendation Award. I only met this volunteer through the first lockdown. I follow them on Twitter. I can attest to all of the above. So it's my pleasure and honour to award the PCA to the fantastic, driven, newly secundus, Alan Plom. Congratulations, Alan. I'd like to pass over now to your chair, who may want to say a few words before you pick yourself up to say a few words as well, Alan.
No, thanks very much, Jimmy, and thanks for supporting the application and awarding Alan with this. You know, sorry, I was smiling from ear to ear because, you know, everything you said so true about Alan. I personally started to work with Alan and the team last year and a half, and Alan is so committed. You know, he attends all our events planning meetings, many of the committee planning meetings, etc., and very passionate. And then when he had this idea about the summer school series, he really went into it and was doing a lot of research, looked at other branch events on the topics, you know, prepared so much materials. I mean, I can go on. So I just want to say personally, thank you, Alan. I have loved being part of this team because of people like yourself. You're really dedicated, and you deserve this, not only for the summer school series, but I'm sure you've been involved in so many other things over the years, just from my interaction with you for the last year and a half. So thank you. I'm so glad. So I'll hand over to Louise. I know would want to say something.
Hi, Alan. I hope we managed to surprise you, because Jimmy and I love doing this. And, you know, it's been a great privilege for us to give these awards. You are phenomenal, and you are the man that will never retire, I don't think. I'll never forget one of the first times you and I really had a long conversation, and that's when we did the Alan's got a great way of naming our events. So it was our Trees and Caterpillars event. Gosh, about, I can't even remember what year that was in now. And I was a fairly new vice chair of the Chiltern branch, and the then chair didn't turn up for this event, and I had to chair this whole event, and I was fairly new to Chiltern branch and doing all of this, and we had a fantastic event, and we had people up trees with chainsaws. We had demonstrations of new grass cutting equipment, and it was you organized all of that. It was a phenomenal event, and I remember walking away from the venue and you saying, the thing is, Louise, we just keep killing people in the same way, and we need you guys to come through and just carry on doing it. And I'll never forget those words, and you've been a total inspiration to all of us, and I hope you never do retire. So, you know, this is massively well earned. I love working with you, Alan Plom, and congratulations.
I suppose I'm expected to say something now after all those epithets. Well, I'm gobsmacked, so thank you. The element of surprise there, well, that's amazing. All I've got to say, it's a team effort. I mean, one person can't deliver, you know, eight events in 8 weeks on top of everything else. We've all got day jobs to do, despite people thinking I'm retired. There's many other things going on. And I'm glad my wife wasn't listening when you just said I'll never retire, because I have promised her I will next year at 70. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Now, just thank you, Jimmy, for taking the time as well, for joining us. For me, I mean, as you know from network conferences and so on, we've won a few awards before, wherein my Rural Industries Group hat, and all of those events are about collaboration, and that really, that's where I'm coming from, and that's what these events were about. It was about encouraging others to work together. We've all got limited time. It's about sharing our resources, our ideas, and you know, we've worked together with some other branches really well. The statistics of these events are amazing. The important thing is it's a legacy there for the future. We've recorded them. I wish so many other branches had recorded their events for posterity as well. So yeah, I'm great. It's set it up. Look forward to B2B2. And maybe somebody else would come up with the other ideas. So I'd encourage other branches to step forward and say, yeah, we're covering a topic relevant in our program over the winter months, say. So let's have a winter school, or I can't wait till next summer. Just thank you very much, and just hope it encourages, the idea encourages others to do something similar and work together. And just thank you for your kind words, but you know, that's what we do as volunteers. It's about helping others and sharing and encouraging, and it's so great. You know, Melissa said join the branch new, just like you, Louise, stepped into it new, and look where you've got to. So that's fantastic. That's what I like to see. It's encouraging others. So yeah, let's end on a high note. It's not about me, it's about everybody else. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Alan. I'd just like to say that on top of that, this why this PCA was created with myself and Louise, and come up with a great idea alongside Sunita Patel, our amazing coordinator, who drags all this and pulls all this together. Sunita doesn't like praise, but she's sitting down in the bottom corner there. So yeah, thanks again, Sunita, for pulling all this together. And what a great branch. This branch is just so much team, so much respect. It's fantastic. So thank you very much again. And thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chair.
And Jimmy, I'll just add before you go, the first award you gave to our good friend Chris, it's his event that he planned before his death for his charity that, you know, was a big part of his award, Disabled Swimming Group. And, you know, what better week than to give it with the Paralympics going on as well. And yeah, so I'm going there. I should be presenting that award to his wife in front of all of their good friends and supporters in that context. And, you know, I'll explain there's been so much going on that they don't know about. Like, equally, we didn't know about all the other things he did. So that's fantastic, and it's joined up. And I've got him a lovely rose called Virtuous. So what else can we say? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jimmy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us for this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Good. So Tim, hand back over to you.
Okay. Well, thanks for being such a great human being and inspiration in health and safety, Alan. Well-deserved award, thank you, and all the kind words, and yeah, well-deserved. So with regards to branch updates, I've got to mention that the council elections are ongoing. I can't remember exactly what part of the process they're up to, but next week it kind of all kicks off. So you need to pay attention as members who are interested in voicing their opinions and finding someone to voice their voice, as it were, within IOSH. If you want to change something, you need to get involved. So I would just say that if you're of a mind to want to influence how things are done in IOSH, then get involved. And the way to do that is to follow the council elections and monitor them and vote accordingly. With regards to specifically our branch, like I said before, we're going to have a bit of a break, and then early October we're looking at doing a bit of a joint session, which is not kind of finalized yet, but it will involve something to do with COP26, the environment, how health and safety professionals can influence, understand, and get involved with environmental issues within their own sphere of influence. So change what you can, not what you can't, and also to try and involve future leaders with that as well, because obviously it's quite an issue for younger members of society, and we need to attract younger people to the health and safety profession. So we're trying to bring a few things together there. And if you just follow the LinkedIn page and or the IOSH Chiltern website, our microsite, then updates will be put on there. So you can come and join us again, which for what will hopefully be a very interesting and topical meeting in early October. Melissa, do you have any more branch news? Or
So no,
anything?
yes. So thanks, Tim. Thanks for hosting this session, and thanks, Luke, for closing off our summer school series. I just wanted to say a few things about the summer school series that I didn't say in the part with the award, right? So very successful event, and we're not just saying that; it's based on the survey feedback we've gotten from the attendees. You know, all of the events have averaged around 100 attendees. But we don't do it for the number of attendees. We do it in terms of making sure that it is valuable. And we do read every survey feedback, and some really great comments have come back. We've averaged around 88% of the people who have completed the surveys have rated it 4+ out of 5. Over 95% have found the presentation informative, etc. And we do these, and not only our branch, all the IOSH branches do these to make sure that we're providing information resource to our members to help enhance the profession. And that's why, for me, I think with Alan's been so committed to helping others. He goes to all these other different branches, picks up information, and comes to our branch and say, oh, let's think about this topic, let's incorporate, etc. And one of the beauties of this summer school series was that the opportunity to collaborate with the other branches of the Midlands and East region. So I want to also thank Brenton for his support in coordinating us as our regional manager. I'm a huge believer of collaboration and working together. It is one of the benefits of this, challenging year and a half we've had, that we've been able to do this virtually and come together. We've had events where there are people from Australia on at the same time people as the US. So it's been great. So as Tim has said, we are going to take September off, and we are looking to do something a bit different with regards to, October is going to be the COP26. Everybody knows, environment, climate change is such a big thing. And for us as OSH professionals, we will have a role. We have to have a role in it. So we thought it would be good to have a conversation on that. And then in November, we're thinking of something around mental health. There's been a lot of comms around ISO 45003. So maybe incorporating that, though there's a lot of information out there already on that. But there's some things we're thinking about. So just a reminder, join us on LinkedIn, follow us on LinkedIn. And one of the things we've always said, we wouldn't mind people coming to our committee meetings. So if anyone's interested in joining the committee meetings, drop us a line. And you're welcome to join. We've changed it to bi-weekly. So I know I've gone on a bit, but I just wanted to say thanks again. It's been a great couple of months, and all of the information is posted on the branch website. So yeah, just all I have to say. I don't know, Brenton, did you want to say anything from a regional perspective?
No, no, just to thank all the attendees for this this Back to Basics summer school series. It's been a real eye-opener, and thanks everybody that's attended them. I think it was long overdue that we literally went back to basics. The last 15 months or so has been dominated by big ticket numbers, if you like, with what's happened. And whilst people are still getting killed and injuring themselves in the normal way. So it's been a really good initiation by Alan. I'm not going to embarrass him any further, but it was fantastic. Thank you very, very much for coming up with the idea. We'd love to do a second series at some point, and the collaboration between the region has been really good. Hopefully we'll get an increase in that for the next one. So thank you all. That's all I really have to say on it today. Thanks guys.
Thanks. So back to you, Tim, to close off.
Well, I think we're about done, really. Thank you very much. And I don't mind embarrassing Alan again. Well done, Alan. And look forward to speaking to yourself and any others that want to join us at the committee meeting or the branch meetings.
Thank you
all
very
much, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
I'm glad it all paid
Keep
off.
well.
Thank you.
Yeah.